What is going on, everyone? This is Andrew O'Connell with Pristine Capital coming at you with yet another market recap video. I'm also the Director of Research at Leduc Trading. It is January 14th, 2021. What a wild day in the markets. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy this content, and I will continue to make it for you. Today we're going to talk about the price action in the broad indices. We'll go through the little volatility spike that occurred at the end of the day. We'll take a look at some of the trades that I placed. And last but not least, we will take a look at some options order flow. And there was a lot of interesting flow today. But before we jump into all that, quick risk disclaimer. Nothing in this video should be construed as investment advice or recommendations. Please follow your own trading plan and your own risk parameters. And last but not least, do not YOLO your entire account into any one of my trades. So let's jump right in and take a look at the price action today. So we've talked about, we've been talking about this every day. The market is by and large moving sideways. We are in options expiration week. Options expiration day is tomorrow. And a lot of times you end up getting, a pretty significant amount of chop in the market during options expiration week. And that's really what we've been seeing here. So if you look, I'm going to pull up actually the ES futures. I'm looking at SPY right now. I guess we could do either or, but yes, this looks just a little bit different. For our box scores today, we had a little bit of a reversal. S&P 500 down 0.35%. We had the NASDAQ QQQ down 0.53%. We had the IWM small caps leading the way today, up 2%. And then we had the Dow Jones down 0.19%. Yeah, the S&P 500 in the grand scheme is still moving sideways. We closed below the 5-day exponential moving average today, which we have not done at any other point during the week. But we're still above the 20-day simple moving average, still above the monthly value area. Let's see how we look on the hourly chart. And I definitely got a little bit spooked by, the price action in the market today. When we look through my trades, but I would definitely say I overtraded a little bit today. And wow, would you look at this? So we actually poked right back into, this is, our hourly chart, and this shows the weekly value area. We poked back into this weekly value area. You can see that throughout the week, every time we've poked into it, dip buyers have immediately come in and auctioned us higher. The one thing I maybe 3 days ago was Charlie McElligot's article. He's a Nomura strategist. I talked about, he's one of the only guys out there that I really take seriously, that I do think has edge. He is very, in sync with a lot of the flows that are occurring in the market. And he pretty much said, in an article on Monday, we're going to have a record level of gamma coming off the books. And we should have sort of like a squeeze up into OPEX, and then a window of vulnerability, could open up after OPEX, where a lot of this gamma is rolling off, hedges will be rolling off, and if a lot of these assets have been sort of like gamma squeezing higher, once all the gamma rolls off, they could sort of like unclench and have a little bit of a drawdown. So I've kind of kept that in the back of my mind, and I added an IWM hedge, I believe it was like 2 days ago. That certainly has not helped me at all because IWM has been super strong. But I did actually add a SPY hedge into my portfolio today as well. But yeah, you can see, just poked into that weekly value area. We'll have to see what happens tomorrow. Let's take a look at the Qs. The Qs were, pretty weak today. They were the weakest. You can see the Qs. This is the hourly chart, still above that weekly value area. You can see this dump came on, high relative volume compared to the rest of the day. It's pretty interesting there. Let's take a look at the daily chart. Yeah, for the most part, in the grand scheme, we're really just moving sideways. We did, however, close below the 5-day exponential moving average, just like we did in the S&P 500. Sorry for kind of like moving this around so much. Yeah, we closed above, below the 5-day EMA, which is like our first kind of like somewhat-ish red flag. And then we still have that 20-day below us in the monthly value area. IWM has just been super strong, and I kind of feel like an idiot for using that index as my hedge given how strong it's been. But we will have to see. The reason why I chose IWM as my hedge was looking at that Charlie McElligott article, he said like net delta in IWM is at like the 99th percentile or something like that. So I thought, hey, risk reward, maybe it makes sense. But as of right now, we're still seeing a lot of relative strength here. So small caps closed up 2%, still looking bullish on all time frames. And then the Dow Jones, another, pretty much nothing burger of a day. It seems like no matter what happens in the other headline indices, the story's pretty much the same for the Dow, or it's like, oh, nothing happened. So yeah, you can see the Dow, just moving sideways. And in terms of our sectors and style factors, let's pull those up just to see what happened. And then I'll talk a little bit about like my trading day and kind of like what I observed as I was experiencing the markets. So we had the cannabis ETF, just another day of crushing it, 4.76%. At one point, I do believe it was up over 6%. And then you can see ARC Genomics had a great day, up 3.5%. ARC Innovation up 2.5%. And then you can see energy up almost 3%. And pretty much today the story was like high beta and cyclicals were doing really well. And then you can see some of the laggards here. We had the gold miners down 0.08%. We had consumer staples down about 0.5%, and we had utilities also down. So those areas come to mind in terms of areas that are impacted by higher real rates. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah, and then for our style factors, like I said, high beta up 2.13%. Then we had the cyclicals up 2.05%. Now, what's interesting, high div, low vol actually had a pretty good day as well. And the laggards were growth, momentum. Yeah, so I noticed like throughout the week, I always say like options expiration can be a lot of chop. Like I'll notice there'll be like one day where cyclicals and high beta are crushing it and growth and momentum are, red. And then the next day it just flip-flops and then flip-flops. So like if you're trying to like play directionally, I find options expiration week, at least for me, is a little bit tougher. Like you have to pick and choose your spots a little bit better during this week. And then in terms of my trades, I would say, to be honest, I may have overtraded a little bit today. So SPCE is one that I put on. I had actually put it on, I believe, before I recorded last night's video. And then when I finished recording, I was like, I completely forgot about SPCE. So I'm just going to pull this up. This is, like our room in Leduc Trading, sort of like some of the content we're putting out. So like, if I ever enter anything in the after hours, I always just post it here for clients. So yesterday, yes, this was at 4:53. So yeah, it was before I recorded my recap. I just completely forgot. Team, I just took a swing long in SPCE for 29.25 in the after hours. And yeah, I just added that one because, Kathy Wood is apparently doing like a space ETF. So I saw that headline come up, and that was literally like the first space stock that even came to mind. You can see SPCE, like I just picked up some of the commons. SPCE ended up having, really strong day today. Broke out from the monthly value area, and I'm already up, a couple bucks on the position just by entering in the after hours yesterday. So we'll have to see what happens with this one. Yeah, probably just going to hold this one and, see what the river brings. I'll probably move my stop up a little bit in this name. And then, yeah, this was where like the sloppiness came in a little bit. And, maybe the options expiration week chop kind of, got me a little bit. So DraftKings, yesterday I took a target in, my March calls. And I remember specifically saying on my video, like, yeah, I still have my May calls, but I took a target in these Marches. Today, DraftKings, appeared as though it was breaking out. And, like, I'm so familiar with sort of, like, the story behind DraftKings. I'm a long-term bull. So I think I got a little bit, like, overzealous on the breakout. And I was like, well, now I want to add that piece back on just so like if it becomes a big winner, I'll juice it even more. So I added some February 55 strike calls. So they expire, essentially like 1 month and a day from now. Um, and yeah, pretty much this thing like just faded throughout the day. We had a really nice push up to about 57. And I remember in yesterday's video saying like, I think out of nowhere one day we might just get a really big bar, that pushes us up to about like 60. And I think I saw an analyst upgraded the stock. So I was like, this might be the time. So I really just wanted to push it. But the one thing that I sort of noticed as it faded, and definitely something, just learning lesson for the future, there was pretty much no volume coming into the stock when it was really lifting. So that was like, even when I put my extra piece on, I kind of felt weird about it. I was like, I'm not really seeing like people piling in or anything like that. And the relative volume was under 1 at the time. So it just seemed like, even though there may have been like a bullish upgrade and whatever, like there just wasn't really like any big interest in the stock. So yeah, I'm sitting positive in my May calls because I purchased those, somewhere over here. But I'm sitting at maybe like a 12% loss on the 55 strike calls that I purchased today. So we'll have to see. I may end up taking off, that ad at some point next week. So I'll have to see. But that's where I think like I got a little bit sloppy because it's not like I wasn't in DraftKings. I already had my May calls on, but I just tried to like push the ball a little bit further. And that's another thing for me. Like I typically don't really trade monthly options. Like if you notice my style, like typically, for in January, I'm probably going to be trading March options or even like April options, depending on what I'm doing. And I just noticed with how fast the market's moving, I think even me subconsciously, my style kind of like drifted a little bit. Where I was like, well, I'm going to buy the February's because I think it's going to make a really quick move and I'll make more money. So what I noticed is like, this is just me personally. Typically, the market starts moving really fast and I start doing a couple of like little mistakes that I wouldn't normally make. And that usually, at least for me, is like when the trend is about to turn. Like once I start like drifting my strategy and all that, that's typically when like, I've gotten hit by a bus, in the past. So yeah, I definitely am just, keeping cognizant of that. I'm going to keep this position on because I do think there's still a really good chance this one does break out. But yeah, yet another, just little fake out here. And then Pinduo. Duo is one that I entered, right on the open. I planned this trade out and I was like, you know what? I have been kind of not having enough exposure to these Chinese internet names, and I would like to enter into Pinduo Duo. And I saw like, okay, we got the pullback to the 20-day simple moving average, and we held it. So I entered this one, pretty much right on the open. So I got filled for like $170 a share. And then this one also, just didn't really have any power throughout the day. Just kind of sold off on like very low volume. So this one, I still think this one could break out or whatever, but yeah, still, just going to have to give it some time. And I'm probably going to trade against that 20-day simple moving average. If we break, below that, I'll probably stop myself out. So even that one, I was like, I may not have picked the correct stock or whatever. We'll see what happens with PDD. It could be a good setup. Oh yeah, and Plug. Plug was one, I probably should have included this one first. I remember telling you guys like in the prior videos, I've been trading Plug. I've had it long for maybe like a week or so, like a week or a week and a half. And I actually exited, my full position in Plug today. So I exited it in the pre-market, and for that reason, I had to put it in this chat here. So yeah, team, I'm selling my Plug in the pre-market session today at 8:19, and I exited for $66.16 off of my entry for $39.81. So I had a nice gain in this name. But one thing that I noticed, so closed it for like over a 50% gain. Let's see, Plug. I just noticed throughout the day there was almost no like will to auction this thing down at all. So like I was thinking we had a crazy extended move, and if you look at the volume on this candle, to me the reason why I sold it is because I was like, okay, this looks super extended. We had this high volume day where I'm sure some big players sold their position. So I was like, let me just, take my gains off the table. And, if we get a pullback or something like that, maybe I'll add back. So I was expecting like, okay, I sold at 66 and change in the pre-market. I was expecting an actual sell-off. And at one point I saw this thing like, pushing all the way up here to like 68. I was like, man, does this thing want to go like positive for the day? Like, what's going on here? So I just saw like the power that this one has and like these relentless dip buyers. So like think about it, I'm doing the competition. I want to stay in the best assets. So I was like, this could be a problem if I just dumped my winning horse in the race here for pretty much no reason. So at around like 10:25 or so, I just happened to be looking at the options flow, and I'll just flip right over to it. And I saw these call buyers come in at like 10:25. I just saw Blink for 6.3 million, for 1 million, 3.7 million. And look at this, the 80 strike calls for 2023, and then these are just super in the money, 10 strike calls for a year out. So I was like, you know what? I am just going to add a position in Blink, because Blink also looked like, a very similar chart, and it just looked like it was very strong. Same thing with Fuel Cell. These names are like super performers and they don't want to give up. So at 10:25, I pretty much very quickly, I entered some March 50 strike calls for about $11.60. And I picked them up. This one I actually, had a pretty good trade location. So I felt kind of like, DKNG was like a flop. PDD was like a nothing burger. This one, at least I got, pretty good entry here. So this was, let me go to like my 5 minute. So 10:25 was when those orders came in. See that? It's like right here. Yeah, right here. And I was probably in this stock by 10:30 at the latest. So for this one, I actually caught, a pretty nice ride up and sideways throughout the day. This name definitely looks like it has, some power to it. And I'm already in the green, on day one. So that's a good thing. So I figured, I got out a plug. Who knows if I'm premature, but I definitely want to have at least one of those high flyers on the books. Like even F-Cell. This thing had a correction, but I mean, it put in a green candle here. So there's definitely, dip buyers still coming in. See, between these three names, it definitely looked like, I'm glad I picked Blink, because I do think that one looks the best technically. So we'll have to see what happens. But, that was probably like my one good trade for today. Yes, we talked about Plug. I sold that. Talked about Blink. I bought into that one. And then towards the end of the day, and I think I was a little bit slow on this. That's okay. So the VIX, I noticed, I do a webinar for Leduc clients every day from 2 to 3. And I noticed when I was in my webinar that, the VIX was just putting in like a green candle. Notice the VVIX was doing the same exact thing. So I was thinking in my head, like, okay, so our options expiration is tomorrow. I already know about this gamma roll-off that's coming and that it could be a bearish catalyst. Now I'm seeing the VIX and the VVIX rising. So I think I was a little bit slow on the draw because I noticed that, and then the market turned red, maybe like 15, 20 minutes later. But I ended up purchasing, a SPY hedge. I bought the March 380 strike puts, and I got them for, I think, like, it was either like 11 or 13 bucks, but I had a pretty good location on that one too. I got my puts when the SPY was down, maybe like 0.2%. So we'll have to see. Now I have the IWM hedge, which is, not really doing that great right now. IWM is showing strength. And I also have the SPY hedge now. So I definitely just want to be in a spot where, if some sort of sell-off or correction comes, I don't get just totally, destroyed in that. And the other thing I noticed is like the reason why I think maybe I shouldn't be hedging is because, Biden's going to roll out, like a $2 trillion stimulus package. But the one thing that I thought was kind of interesting is that the VIX was rising. And I love to see like how does the market react to different headlines. So I noticed, let me go to my notifications. And so, oh man, look at this. An hour ago, Blue Origin aims to fly first passengers on its space tourism rocket as early as April. But Blue Origin is not public. So I'm curious to see how SPCE reacts tomorrow, if it sells off or it just moons. But yeah, I saw this. Biden will present a 1.9 trillion stimulus plan tonight. And so I was like, okay, these dip buyers might just come in. Like, who wants to sell in front of a stimulus plan? I actually commented on it right here. But that was at 338. And, it's not like the market went green. And the VIX didn't really come off. The VVIX didn't really come off. So what I'm thinking is, if he unveils this package, tonight, and then suddenly it's like, boom, the news hit, the package is out. Maybe we get like a blow-off move into OPEX, but now that's in the past, pretty much. I mean, the stimulus is already announced, and then we have the new expiration month next week where all that gamma rolls off. So that's why I feel like long term, I think this market's still going up. And, I've been playing this thing the bullish side the whole time. But I just do think there might be some sort of like little hiccup next week. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to manage the hedges with tight stops. Because if the market just continues to rally, I'm not going to be like that stubborn person who's like, I'm just keeping these hedges on or whatever. I got to just quickly be like, okay, that was a mistake. Boom, and move right on. But I, just added that on just for prudence. So that about does it for my trades. I think I went into, probably too much detail there. Well, let's see. Yeah, we'll go through some options order flow from today. There was a bunch. And I am going to be posting my affiliate link for Cheddarflow in the description of this video. Feel free, if you're interested, to click the link and you'll get a free 7-day trial of Cheddarflow. And you can see we're filtering for the $1 million orders and up. Gamestop had another ripper today. It looks like some people are trying to step in and short it. Those people are crazy, man. I would not do that, but maybe after all the short covering is done, maybe this thing comes back to earth. I don't know, but yeah, GameStop is in a really good spot right here. I have GameStop in some of my accounts, not my investing championship account. So I was like, darn. I still like it because I have some exposure, but it's not in my competitive account. Let's see. And then FSLR is one that's interesting me. Because another thing I was thinking about today is like I might actually want to add more exposure in clean energy. Because I saw how TAN, the solar ETF, is having a nice little consolidation. So I figured, hey, this one's been quiet for a couple of days. Let's see what happens. Same thing for ICLN. Clean energy ETF. Having a pretty similar, this one's kind of drifting up a little bit, but, pretty quiet, not really doing all that much. So I'm like in the mindset of maybe picking up more exposure here. I already have exposure through end phase. Oh, wow, and this one looks like it faded too. Yeah, a lot of just fades. Yeah, this one approaching the upper end of that recent range. And, who knows, maybe we end up getting a breakout. But the one that I'm in, I've been long for, I think I entered it on like the first day of the new trading year. I talked about in my video is end phase. And wow, I'm actually glad I didn't add to end phase today. Because, really nice move up. But then it just wicked out. So that was kind of like the story of a lot of stocks today was they were just wicking out. NCLH, I added my calls back, maybe like a week or so ago. Talked about it in these videos. NCLH finally making a nice move. So I actually like this setup now, where we have a really nice move up. We had a correction, and then we put in this, base right here, and now it's like, boom, we just broke out of that base. So I do like this setup here. And I think as the vaccine rolls out, this is what I was talking about in the video, where I think NCLH, like these cruise lines, I think they're going to benefit. And in terms of like a rate of change, these businesses have pretty much been decimated. So on a rate of change basis, even if they can just start cruising again, at some point, maybe like this summer or, next summer or whatever, assuming they can stay in business, at some point, I think these should pop. Yes, that was good. I have those calls. Yeah, we have some orders. Yeah, a lot of orders for Neo. Let's see, this is January 15th of 2021, more January 15th, December of 2022, more January 15th. So a lot of this looks like either super quick day trades or, they're just trying to actually purchase the stock. Let me see what Neo did. Neo's one I traded a little bit last year. Haven't traded it yet this year. Okay. Yeah, we're up, or down 2.06% today. Yeah, people are buying more calls in that name. And Lemonade. Let's see what happened with Lemonade. And this one, SOL. Yeah, FCell, people coming into that one. Pen. Baidu, I actually forgot to include this one. I had some long common stock because I've been trading Baidu. I pretty much call it like the vast majority of this run up in Baidu. So this was like an awesome stock for me to end 2020. But I had, still was owning some common shares in Baidu, and I closed them out at 250 for about like an 18% gain. But yeah, I traded this one since this first breakout candle here, and I've had calls, rolled them, and then just ended up with some common stock. And let me check last one, Sol, SOL. Wow, what is the story with this one? This one looks awesome. Technology solar company. Oh my lord. It's already up almost 100% year to date. It's up 1,500% for the year. Are you sick? Rene Sola to sell 12.3 million MW. I don't know what that measurement is. Projects in Hungary. Huh. Talk about a super performer. Gosh. Let's see. I'm just going to do, I like using this site now. That's like a really quick and dirty, check on fundamentals. Let's see. Is it this company? No, it's not this one. Rene Sola. Let me see. Let me try typing that in. There it is. The future is, high on this little heat map. Earnings are forecast to grow 44%. Okay, and they're showing it as a little bit overvalued here, but nothing too crazy. Interesting. If we get a little dip or a correction, this one might be on my watch list in terms of a solar name. They're looking pretty good. That about does it for today's market recap video. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm glad that we all made it to options expiration, and I will see you all tomorrow.